You know what they say about the value of statues in the Elder Scrolls Online? It's not set in stone. What's going on, YouTube? It is Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I also do not have a wedding to go to this week, so we're inside the Hollow City, inside of Cold Harbor, outside the Plane of Existence to go over our first of two weekend vendors. This is our first blind reaction here. We have more statues? Interesting. So you may not know this about me, but I'm a statue fiend. I love houses like this is the brand new item here, by the way. I love, having houses like the Panther Fang Chapel. I just love throwing statues inside of them because statues are a big, juicy item when it comes to just slapping down. And you can see the value of these bad boys are almost double. Every single one of these is almost double the value as to when you purchase them from here in this vendor, including the actual base that you put these on triples in value if you were to resell this. Now, a couple things. Don't get too excited because, again, these can be difficult to sell on the open market. It's generally better if you're trying to become a furniture salesperson to actually bring people to your house, offer to sell them items, have different items set up around the house at different price points. But the value of these is, it's there, it's documentable. So these are great items. I have tons of these in my houses right now, especially the statues of justice, order, and truth. I mean, they just go so well together. The brand new item for 15K, I'm just going to gamble on it and buy 10 of them just to have, because, I mean, you just look at it and you think to yourself, yeah, it's a good looking statue. But the rest of these, I can tell you, there are good value. Also, generally, I usually avoid the Ragada stuff. I don't think it's as popular. Same with the Dwemer stuff. I think more so you see a lot more value in the Breton ones over time just because of how popular they are. And then obviously the statues of order, justice, and truth, just because it's got that imperial aesthetic, and the bases are also fantastic. So great stuff this week. But whether or not you invest or not is going to be up to you. And it's always funny to see how many people are sitting here waiting for this vendor as it pops up. And as we jump into our second golden vendor here, it's a quick reminder to like the video and subscribe. If you've never been here before to this second vendor, you do have to go inside of Cyrodiil. You can find them in the Northern High Rock Gate or your major alliance capital. If you need help finding them, ESOhelper.com will give you a mini map on how to find these bad boys. But we start with our golden sets here. As always, we do a blind react, and we start with Alien Refuge. Now, this is a set that you can purchase. It's never a good sign when the average is 1,000 gold. Now, obviously, that does not take into consideration this is a golden one, but it's not a good sign. And this bad boy is an overland set from Westwell that gives you stam, health, blocking, and attack, reduces your damage taken by 11% for 3 seconds. This is one of these sets in the Elder Scrolls Online. This is a set that's like dead average. If you wore a set like this, you'd be like, am I getting a value? Maybe from something. It's a 5. Like if you just randomly slapped on a set and then just went into combat, I don't think you would notice value from this set. 2 bars of health is better than a slap in the face, but stamina as a bar and then blocking an attack reduces your damage taken by 11% for 3 seconds. You're just not going to get enough value out of that, in my opinion, for most types of content, probably any type of content. Yes, you could build some weird sort of block mitigation type build, but probably not even to use a set like this on that type of build. Next up is the Kamana Tong set. Now, this set comes from the Telvanni Peninsula, and it is probably one of the most unique sets in the Elder Scrolls Online, because it gives you weapon and spell, weapon and spell, weapon and spell. When you kill a monster and gain experience, you gain 1 weapon and spell damage for every 50 experience points the monster is worth for 30 seconds. This bonus can stack up to a maximum of 540 weapon and spell damage. It's not, however, affected by any XP point boosting effects. So at maximum, you are getting one of the best weapon and spell damage sets in the game. But there's a couple problems with this set. So let's say you're thinking to yourself, Jake, this would be the perfect set. I can run dungeons, right? Well, problem if you run dungeons with this is there's going to be periods of time where potentially you're having to explain mechanics to people in the group. You're waiting for the boss to do something. There might be waves in different dungeons where no DPS and experience is being gained. So you might think to yourself, okay, Jake, what if I take this bad boy to an arena? You might think to yourself, that's that's even better, right? Well, the problem, if you go to an arena, you got that a little announcer and the little thing going, "Boop, boop, 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 boop. Hey guys, the new arena is about to begin. Let me chit chat to you for about 15 more seconds." You're like, buddy, I only get 30 seconds to, before it starts to wear off. So it's a set that really has such high highs, but it's got crazy low lows. And I don't really know how you put a set like this. If you're XP farming, this is a fantastic weapon and spell damage set. Like if you're doing overland XP farming, this is great. But if you're like doing that, you don't really need a set like this. You're probably gonna use a set like Macabre's Vintage. Why would you run this set? Even if you're farming like Skyreach or the Catacombs or Black Rose Prison, round 2 on repeat. I just don't see, I feel like I'm missing a use for this set. Comment below. I'm still going to give it a 7 because 540 weapon and spell damage with a 2, 3, and 4 bar of weapon and spell damage is still pretty cracked, but you're going to really struggle to find situations where you can do that. There's probably certain dungeons that can be speed ran with this set because you're going to constantly just be absorbing experience, and because you're not sitting to explain mechanics, and certain dungeons don't have a lot of waves where you're not killing things. I do think you could get some, great utilization from it, but it's going to be niche and specific, even though a set like this is so cool in flavor. Next up is Medusa from Ark's Cornium. Now, this is a dungeon set, so you're not able to actually purchase this set from anybody. It gives you crit, 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 and then minor force at all times. Now, importantly, it does still give you a 5-piece bar of 892 critical chance. So I have been a big fan of Medusa, but for a long time, it's just kind of slowly shifted out of favor. So Ark's Cornium was the first ever dungeon that I fully completed before curated drops existed. And the last piece I needed was that stupid fire staff of Medusa, because I wanted to make, the bee's knees set back in the day where you slap together Mother's Sorrow and you slap together Medusa and you were just killing kids, or just absolutely wrecking shop. This was a long, long time ago. Now, in today's day and age, you can get minor force from pretty much anything. You walk down to your local grocery store, they're giving you minor force these days. So minor force is not what it used to be, unfortunately. Now, this could free up a slot for you so you can use a different buff. Now you don't have to use channeled acceleration. You can use something different. I still think Medusa's a 7.5. Crit damage builds are really all the rage right now. And if you think about it, if you combine Medusa and Monomyth, you will have major and minor force at all times. And then you could focus all your buffs on other things. So you have 100% uptime on both of those buffs. But I do think it's not as good as most of the other Monomyth builds that you would do, whether they're for PvP or PvE. So 7.5 out of 10. Next up from Wayrest Sewers 1 is Tooth Row. You can also farm Wayrest Sewers 2. Gives you maximum stam, crit chance, weapon and spell, gain major savagery and prophecy at all times, increasing your weapon and spell critical rating by 2629. Now, the problem with this set, you may have already picked up on, is this 5-piece bonus of major savagery and prophecy is not very helpful because there's like 25 skills in the game that give you major savagery or prophecy. So it's not very helpful. And then if you take that away, it's 2 through 5 just looks generic and outdated. It's actually not terrible. 171 weapon spell damage is a 5-piece, getting a buff that you now could build around not needing to put on your skill bar for most other skills. But most people who probably are thinking that way are just going to use Oakensoul, which unfortunately also has major savagery and prophecy. So there's really no good home for a set like this. You might think a beginner build, but if you're using a beginner build, you're going to use the Oakensoul ring. So why would you do that? That's the problem with this build setup. And with subclassing now, you can get major savagery and prophecy from even more sources, making this a pretty worthless set to have, even though I don't think it's as bad as some people say, but I'm still going to give it a 6 out of 10. It is above average in the sense that, yes, you're still getting a 5-piece of 171 weapon and spell damage. And yes, if you gain major savagery and prophecy at all times, you could build another skill in there, a scribable skill to give yourself more buffs that, now you don't have to overlap. You got a free skill slot opened up for you, but you just don't need it. Next up from City of Ash is Infernal Guardian. Now it gives you a 1-bar maximum mag and a 2-bar of when you apply a damage shield to yourself or an ally, you have 50% chance to launch 3 meteors over 2 seconds at the furthest enemy from you, dealing 3145 flame damage to all enemies within 5 meters of blast area. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. It scales off your weapon or spell damage. You could probably start to imagine the problem with a set like this. If you can visualize the problem with a set like this, you've watched so many Golden Vendor videos, you know exactly what I'm going to tell you. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that 3 meteors dealing that much flame damage is decent, but there's a delay. Not the greatest in my opinion. But the bigger problem is the furthest enemy away from you. Why do I want to hit the furthest? I want to kill the person in front of me who's likely dealing the most damage to me. Unless there's some Nightblade off in La La Land who's about ready to get penetrated by 3 meteors, set's not really doing very much help. Now, I will say this set is pretty underrated for dueling because you have a pretty good chance to lob 3 meteors at people because it just continually does it. It's a pretty decent burst, actually, that can kind of cause your enemies that you're dueling to kind of be a little bit scatterbrained on what's going on. It's also not a set that you see super often used in dueling. It comes from City of Ash 1, so the set has been around for a long, long time, but I would say that's probably its best utilization. I will still give it a 7 because the damage output and the ability to scale flame damage is always going to be really good. And if you wanted to make some sort of weird mortar launching flame damage build, you kind of could do an okay job of it with a set like this. You just have to remember that it's really inconvenient to damage the enemy that's furthest away from you. Next up from Spindle Clutch 1 is Swarm Mothers. Now, Swarm Mothers, in my opinion, is super undervalued for its one-piece set. If you're wearing a Mythic and you need to consider having maximum stam and maximum magicka, this is a huge consideration in my opinion, because if you don't need a full monster set and you don't want to wear trainee because trainee is going to give you health, you're going to get more max resources by wearing Swarm Mothers. So as long as you have a purpose for the magicka and stamina, which I assume you will be getting higher resources from this. And you can obviously wear some health glyphs to make up for the fact that you're not wearing a piece of trainee for your PvP build, more than likely if you're building a max stat build or just worrying about total resources. But what about its 2-piece? Well, when you block an enemy that is between 8 and 22 meters away from you, you spin strands of spider silk to pull the enemy to you and taunt them for 15 seconds if they're not already taunted. This effect can occur once every second. So, a couple problems with this set. One is it requires the enemies to actually hit you specifically. So it's not like some sort of AoE automatic taunt for PvE where everything between 8 and 22 meters is going to be aggroed to hit you and then get taunted by you, because that'd be kind of cool. The other piece, the problem with this is that you have to be blocking, and you also have a distance restriction. You have a spectrum. You have to be between 8 and 22. That's just such a weird ruler area to be between, and you're not going to see a lot of utilization. Although I do see some people use this in Cyrodiil to pull people, because people have a tendency to, especially when they're in Zerglings, they just start punching people who are blocking, and they get yeeted over to them only to get the Dawnbreaker of Justice by their group teammates. So you will sometimes see people running Swarm Mother, but generally it's more so it's amazing one-piece. This is one of the best one-pieces in the game, and I think it's definitely a good recommendation for a lot of PvP builds that want stamina and magicka, because obviously a lot of people, if they're playing a magicka character, they forget you need to sprint, roll dodge, do all the things, sneak, and it's helpful to have some stamina to do so when you're playing even a magicka build. But everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. The big hits for this week, as always, are the furniture pieces. The statues are immaculate. Even the worst statues, which in my opinion are the Ragada ones, have good value. I just think that, they're not going to move as quickly just because their market is not as saturated with buyers. But when it comes to the actual sets, I think your best bet is probably just farm Spindle Clutch 1 if you want Swarm Mothers. And the rest of these sets, you're probably really not going to use, but it is always fun, as always, just to take a little time to talk about them. Say to yourself, hey, Jake, what do you think about these sets? I love experimenting with weird and niche sets. I love talking about sets as well. So we have some of the most niche and weird sets this week, as well as some of the best furnishing items that you can get from the luxury furnishing vendor. So if you want to try to make some money flipping those, you certainly can. But thank you guys so much again for watching. We're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you need to do to enter is leave comments below / a like on the video. Second thing is just make sure you subscribe for our second drawing. And the third thing is look for hidden word be flashed upon the screen. You're the first person to find and comment that word, or it could be somewhere else in the description, title, somewhere. make sure to comment it in the comments below. We will also be going live tomorrow at 9 a.m. on Twitch. So stick around. You'll see me there. We could chit chat about some of the best, coolest set builds in the game, theory craft, anything that you guys are trying to build or craft on your own, and we'll go from there. All right. I will be excited to see you guys then, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.